The track is not done, I'd say, right now. Not exactly what I would call done. But I've got a quarter rolling. Let's see. Quarter goes in here. So that's successful. These are hard to get out, these little quarters. And it's, like I say, not done. These supports on this side here and down here, this is temporary. The joints aren't lined up yet, so that takes some fussing and fiddling. But basically I've got a working coin slot. It's pretty straight, needs a little tweaking on that. This view down the track shows a bit of a bow, and with these, the way I have these joints set up, I can flex it straight. Looking down it like this, it looks like those videos of railroad tracks in third world countries that are all ski-wumpus, and yet the train somehow still makes it down. From this viewpoint, you can see how I was lining up the track so that it was a constant ramp downward. And I looked at it from a lot of viewpoints this way and used the ruler before there was anything there. Put the ruler behind to try to get a visual of how it's going to continue the same slope downward. One thing that I thought I might need was a truss style brace underneath the track, but with the rails on the way they are, that provides a basic truss work, and it's rigid enough as it is. The coin slot pocket in the curved corner there was cut by a router. I made a jig of plywood with bars to guide the router. It's basically a rectangle, and it was kind of crazy plunging that router into the side of that, but it worked, and I'll trim that up with black. These pictures show some of the alignment of the ramp before it was in. Made sure it was a smooth transition, like I showed in the beginning, and some basic pictures of building the ramp. In order to make the couplers, I cut brass strips with matching holes, one side tapped, screwed them together, and then solder those to either end of the ramp. One side going to one side of the ramp, and obviously the other side to the other, and make sure the solder doesn't cross over the two, so you don't solder the whole thing together. Then it can be taken apart by removing the screws. On a straight track, I lay the wire down and attach the posts, the vertical pieces, at measured positions. Try to get them to look as even as possible. Soldering is done on this wooden board. I'd find some sacrificial piece of plywood. Wood isn't the greatest because it burns a little, so I'm doing a little wood burning as I solder. But it also doesn't absorb heat, and that's important. I lay the wires down and the parts, hold them down with weights, and I use whatever I can find to hold them down to get a joint made. This is high-strength solder that I'm using that has an acid core flux. That's why it needs cleaned at the end. Clean off the acid, it's very corrosive. The soldering gun is one of those Weller heavy-duty ones with 260/200 watts, depending on where you hold the trigger. It takes patience to use one of those because they take time to warm up, and then doing that much solder, they get hot in your hand, but that's the way it goes. And then I measure to make sure that they're all about the same. There you go. Coins roll down just like roly-poly fish heads. I'm cleaning up the joints with a little bit of water. The solder that I use has an acid core, and it leaves acid on the steel and the brass, and it makes a corrosive mess if you don't clean it off. It doesn't take much water just to rinse it off, but if you don't, there's rust. It's pretty ugly. The coin holder, of course, is designed to let the smaller coins go right through. and only worked with 1/4. And you can see those coins in there, they went right through it. Here comes some more. It's fun watching the coins roll down the ramp. I think that's why there were always so many smaller coins in my collections back in the day. People don't mind putting them in. In fact, it's really fun. So I say let them roll. There could be some kind of a little show for smaller coins, maybe. It would be something subtle, maybe for a very short time, just a moment. For a penny, maybe you'd get a few light blinks, less than a second long, I don't know. For a nickel, maybe you could have some lights blinking and a rotation or two of one of the spinning kinetic elements. And for a dime, maybe you'd get, I don't know, 4 inches of rolling on the suspended train. Fun, huh? I'll do a bunch of finishing on the coin ramp, clean up some of those parts that look pretty crude, and later there will be lights on it, of course. And that's going to be it for this video. I hope to have you along for the next one, and until then, goodbye.